Oh,
Jesus.
the new Saint Seiya is hilarious. I love it. By pressing that space bar
Why?
because I accidentally hit it with my belly and it paused the recording.
Oh no!
Oh, Come on, just you and me. Man versus manhole. Let's go. Stop that.
I'm getting myself ready.
Get hype. So I found out Providence, Maine doesn't mean Providence is in Maine.
It doesn't make sense, does it?
No, but apparently there is a place called Providence, Maine. I heard that and just associated that there was a comma in the middle. So apparently Providence is in Rhode Island. Yeah, great way to start our podcast.
Did you know Oregon City isn't in Oregon?
It's not?
No, it is.
Don't!
I wanted you to seem like you were going insane.
I am, but I don't need help. No, I'm basically the cat from Adventure Time, where I have approximate knowledge of all things.
I don't think anyone's gonna remember season 1 of Adventure Time.
Oh man, you never know.
You never know. Someone obscurely out there will remember that weird cat with holes.
Wasn't he Displacer Beast or something?
He was like a Displacer Beast, but he had like holes in his body.
Yeah, there were sections missing from him. But
And
I thought
his hand just floated.
But I thought he was so cool because he was like Ricardo, where it was like a famous like actor coming in voicing him. I don't know who voiced that cat, but quite memorable to me because it's very creepy. I'm gonna find you, Tim. You're behind this rock, and I'm about to pounce in 3, 2, 1. Aw, dang it, that wasn't it. Well, one of these rocks slammed you. It was very funny where it was like suddenly all the tension had cut out and it was a very, very well made out scene in my opinion.
Yeah.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you? Are you okay? Oh, your sigh levels are up too high. Let me just.
I have two. It's a very sighing week, very filled with a lot of sighing.
Okay, you can't even comprehend a sentence, and I'm confused by this.
I'm just thinking about my entire week, and I'm like, what did I get done? You got work done, and I'm like, okay, yeah, but like, what did I do?
Work.
And my brain is like, man, I don't know. Don't ask me these questions. It just starts panicking. And no,
And that's how an existential crisis is born.
I blame A Midnight Gospel. It's really been getting to me lately because I've been watching it and I'm like, this is a show about experiences and really kind of settling down and enjoying your time and really taking the time to enjoy your time. And then you start watching it and then you start freaking out because like, have you ever seen those Adult Swim bumpers where they're like infinite, like gory loops of being eaten, melted, and then recasted only to be eaten and melted again?
Yeah.
Man, like ever since I was a kid, like staying up until 2 a.m. watching those like freaked me out. Like the surreal realism really got to me.
Well, nowadays, the Adult Swim is on earlier than usual.
That's true.
And so
Adult Swim.
I feel like a lot of kids catch it more often.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's like all the good stuff is like hidden after midnight. They just do reruns of American Dad and Family Guy.
Oh, yeah.
Then hide all the good stuff. Like China, Illinois, and they got Toucan and what's that series? Louise and Toucan? No.
Wait, what is it about?
Toucan and I said you can. No, I meant Toucan and Birdie.
What?
What
what is this?
Like two girl roommates who are. It's like BoJack Horseman, where everyone's an animal, but like it reminds me so much of Regular Show of just people trying to be people in the big city, and like kind of having wild adventures of the outrageous Toucan and her friend Birdie, who's kind of like they're both settling down their lives. They've
Is that a
basically.
plant with tits?
Yeah.
Why?
Because it's surreal imagery. Like I love this like surreal thing where it's like you can have humans doing this, but it's so much more interesting like just seeing these characters of like toucan. What's a toucan? Loud and excited. What is birdie? A sparrow. Often very ferocious but very fragile. And I'm like, that's really good like play on characteristic. Well, she's not fragile. She's how would you say? Gets in over her head. Mordecai and Rigby very very much. They like say a lot of stuff. They have a lot of fun, but then they often do not have the skills to get themselves out of the situations they put them in.
Is that a snake?
Is that no?
I was gonna say, is that a snake person?
Yes.
Go down. Click on the
Yes.
that.
They're playing tennis.
I really like how they kept the super overly long neck. Like I just like that.
Is that a
design
snake or a
wise.
worm? Because it's got the rings.
Oh, that might be a worm. But it's most likely a snake.
So
That's a really big worm.
yeah, but basically they were on Netflix, and apparently Netflix didn't renew them, so Adult Swim decided to pick them up. And I thought that was really cool because Adult Swim is like really good for really like niche short stuff. Like beyond Rick and Morty, I mean like they have a new one about fables. Oh, what's it called?
Oh, I saw an episode of that.
And it's really weird and wild and fun.
I saw the episode on the Red Riding Hood story, and it's just these outrageous, outstretched tales of fairy tales taken to like drug levels of entertainment.
Yeah. So we're about 6 minutes in. Do we want to?
Yeah, let's continue on. So,
I think that was good for a cold open.
yeah. So because you were there, I recently turned 21.
Yeah. So big news story of the week. My brother's 21. How's
Yeah.
that? Like 21 before I got interrupted.
Wow, you really need to set that down.
Yeah.
Stop pausing these videos. Well, I'm 21 and nothing has changed except now I can consume of the alcohol.
I mean, you could before, but now you don't have to feel guilty about it.
Well, I mean, I could if I was in Europe or Mexico, really anywhere else except America. I could consume alcohol.
You make that sound like a dig.
I'm not sure about Asia. Well, it's not supposed to be a dig. It's just I don't think anyone wanted to change the rules.
Nah. But
yeah.
yeah, you had a whole bunch of Spider-Mans in Mexico, which were like those
don't tell people
strawberry
No, it was
freezy
pretty much
slushy margaritas.
Yeah, it's pretty much a slushy with like
I think it was tequila or
I think
vodka.
it was like the tiniest bit of vodka.
Just a little.
Like just so small.
Enough to
Enough
sanitize a scratch.
Yeah, like enough for me to have like 4 and not feel anything.
Yeah. They watered those down. They were just meant to make you feel good
Yeah,
on
it was
vacation.
literally just drinking a slushy. But now I won't be inconvenienced whenever you're like, let's go to a bar. And then it says no minors.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I'm always like, oh, I got to hang out with my brother. I got to hang out with my sister. And
No
then-
minors.
No minors. And they're like, well, Soren, you go wait at the hotel. And I'm like, wait, what? 'Cause that did happen once.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I'm not mad at that.
You weren't.
I wasn't. I slept.
You slept and you played tower defense games.
I played tower defense games, and there was also a cat. So,
Oh yes.
yeah, we were at a.
Oh yeah, we're visiting a friend, and I was like, I'm gonna go out to the bar, and you're like, what do I do? And I'm like, you stay here and play with the cat. And
I
you
think
were
I
like,
read a
okay.
book and like watched a musical.
You love that cat. Though.
And yeah, that cat was
Very
adorable.
friendly.
It jumped on my shoulders. Okay, but back to being 21. I feel nothing and everything at the same time. I feel the same, but I feel like I now have more like I can tower over young people and say I'm old.
You already could do that. You're 10 feet tall.
I'm yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Goliath.
Am I allowed to talk about like the pandemic and being quarantined?
Sure, just not too.
Okay,
No bummers.
It's
no
nothing
bummers.
negative. I'm just saying I've been able to watch and rewatch musicals a lot more since they have been freed up to the public, and it's really nice.
Don't they have Hamilton coming out on Disney Plus soon?
I think so, yeah. A pre-recorded tape version of Hamilton's coming out, and I really want to see it since I have not seen Hamilton yet. I've listened to the music, but I've not seen it.
I kind of wish they would release all of the top Broadway shows over the last like couple of years. I want to see Beetlejuice. I want to see.
They're gonna wait a while on those kind of shows. You can watch.
Is
them.
Good Omens a musical?
No.
Should be.
It's a book and it's a TV series. There is a website called like Broadway.com or whatever that does have pre-recorded shows. I'm not sure about it. I didn't really touch it. I'm not entirely sure, but there's that. It has like Angela Lansbury's staged version of Sweeney Todd. And Lansbury, you know, Mrs. Potts from Beauty and the Beast.
Yes.
I love that woman. I love Murder, She Wrote. As I begin to fall off the track, what have you been excited about since like quarantine? Like what has been kind of the positive part?
I've realized something about myself.
That doesn't
I've done
sound
a lot
positive.
of I've done a lot of internal exploration, and one of the reasons I didn't do a lot of things was I said I just didn't have enough time, but really I just didn't have enough drive. I've been slowly building up my drive where you see this pile on the table in front of you, where I've been working through my entire backlog, where I always buy movies when they're on sale, but I very rarely ever take the time to watch them. And that includes like full movies, which are just 2 hours, and like full animes, which are like 12 hours. And I'm just like, oh, there's just not enough time. I like to kind of get everything done in like a weekend. I don't like to span it over across multiple nights. Like I don't like the back when we watched Game of Thrones, right? I hated watching it every week with people. I hated going over watching one episode and not being able to just get it out of the way because there was just a week of anticipation. And I just like to have a self-contained story from complete finish. I mean, you finish a season and I'll be fine. I can wait after that, but I like to know, like, because I start forgetting stuff and it makes me anxious.
You like to binge is what I'm hearing.
I like to binge. It's not good. It's not.
How long did it take you to get through She-ra? If you could
2 days, 3 days.
Yeah. This man is insane. He got through how many episodes?
52.
52 episodes.
23 minutes each.
In 3 days. It's insane. I don't understand you.
It wasn't even that hard, to be honest. That's the sad thing, because I was drawing at the same time, so
it took me a week just to get through the first season.
Yeah, you've been watching 2 episodes a day.
Yeah, it's just because one, I like to take it slow and nice, and I pay attention to the series. I could have watched more every day, but I didn't want to stay up till like 1 watching it.
I'm glad you're watching it. I was listening to the podcast last week, and basically I had talked to you about it all of last week. And then when we finally said, we're going to do a podcast, and I talked about it, it was like I was continuing the conversation rather than starting from the beginning. So it only sounded like I was really talking about, like, the story's bad, but the characters are great. But like through the whole other week, I was like talking about the other stuff, and none of it shows.
You were so worried that everyone would think that you hate She-ra, but you're just like, no, it's good.
Yeah, well, I mean, like there were a couple things, but like, do you remember the first thing I said to you after I'd finished binging it? Like,
the first 26 episodes are meh.
Yeah, but I was like I was working my way through the first season, and we were walking and talking, and I said, She-ra, the Princess of Powers, is so gay, and I love it because the show is very colorful, and all the characters are, it's all about.
You compared it strongly to Steven Universe.
I compared it to Steven Universe only because, like, the question of why 2 people should be together isn't a question at all. They just are. You know what I mean? Like, if you watch Steven and Connie's relationship develop, that's over, like,
3 seasons.
That's over 5 seasons.
Oh,
they mean season 1, but like they're intermittent. It's always about Steven and the gems, and then his relationship with Connie becomes more prevalent throughout the seasons.
Yeah.
This one, there's like a relationship thing going on in And everyone you see in the background, it's like, oh, there are two people who are just totally a couple, or um
Oh, I love the little background things. I would
Well-
say my favorite thing about She-ra is all of their cute faces when they get super happy about something,
Yeah.
especially in
when she sees She-ra sees the horse for the first time.
yeah, when She-ra sees the horse.
What
when
is that? Just like
yeah, when Entrapta gets into the console room and goes just for like a whole minute, and I just sat here like, I love these. They are my babies, and I will take care of them. I would kill everyone in the entire world, then myself, if anything happened to my babies.
Are you trying to quote that Brooklyn Nine-Nine
Yeah.
reference?
Well, it's not Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
I've only met this cat for like 5 minutes, but I am ready to kill everyone in this room and then myself if anything were to happen to
Yeah,
me.
that's just been a meme like forever. I don't know if Brooklyn Nine-Nine
You feel
started.
strongly about these characters.
Yes.
Everyone who arrives is good, but unfortunately, I think we talked about, you said you saw some of the same problems I did.
Yeah, if you could remind me what I said.
You said something where it's like I can kind of see the pity parties.
Yeah, by episode 2 is when you start seeing the, oh no, you're not the problem, we're friends.
Well, the thing about that is because I think I told you, you went in expecting it. I'm so glad that I didn't, my talking about it didn't turn you off to it.
No, because it's like I can't. So
There's things great about it. Like there are things that truly shine, but then there are things that pull it back, which are the every episode there is a I am not as good as I should be. It a lot of self-loathing and stuff like that.
what I like about the show is even though it has that kind of like touchy-feely, our friendship will like get us through the end. It's still a feel-good show where it's not cringy, like terrible, and it's not like overwhelming with it. Like you told me you really liked the show because it just made you feel good. Like
It was a very positive show, like the Adventure Zone. Like Adventure Zone is a very positive kind of like friends and family coming together to solve a problem.
yeah, like
And especially like the opening song is like, we're gonna win in the end, and that like my mind instantly jumped to the final episodes of Adventure Zone, which always get me to some degree.
so. What I wanted? Oh,
Sorry,
Lord.
continue your thoughts.
Sorry, my brain is like shutting on and off like a
You're-
flip switch. This is the kind of show you want to watch when you're feeling a little sad, I would say.
Yes,
Because you said you were just in a slump, and when
I
you
was
started,
absolutely drained.
when you watch She-ra, you start feeling better, and I'm getting that feeling too. I just kind of want to binge the show now as well. Like I could have watched more. I just didn't want to stay up till like really late in the night. But
We are at a point in time when feeling good is really important
yeah, at least with what's going on,
in the world.
She-ra's good.
Yeah, she was a good thing to have.
I think I'm gonna hold off on all those darker shows like Dark Crystal and everything.
Well, I'm almost up for Dark Crystal because from what I understand, it's like Lord of the Rings where there's a lot of dark stuff, but it's still a show where kind of like I like shows where bad pays out bad and good pays out good, if you know what I mean.
yes.
Where like if I keep portraying people as the bad person, eventually I'm left all alone in the end. That is paying off being bad, whereas being good is gathering allies that they're there for you in the end is good. And that's kind of the series I like. And even though a series is dark in tone, it could still have the same message of like, you work hard, you get, benefits out of it. Mm-hmm. I hate the stuff though, where it's like, Prince of Persia,
Oh.
where nothing matters because like you have a Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, I never watched that.
with Ryan Gosling.
You told me it was terrible, and I was like,
it wasn't as bad as I said it was. I like the effects. I actually really like the main character and the gal he's running around with. It reminds me a lot of that like 90s movie chemistry of male and female leads. But ultimately, the power didn't matter, the villains didn't matter, and every side character was just a gimmick.
Yeah.
Was a marker in the plot where here's exposition or here is where you need to go next, and they literally have object A and have to go to location B, but then location B turns out to be fake, and they have to go to location C, which then reveals that they need item C for item A and B, and it was very convoluted. And
I want to say every time I sit down, I cannot tell unless it like goes into the more specifics if I am watching Prince of Persia or that Gods of Egypt movie.
Oh, you're like watch 5 seconds and I'm like, I don't know what this is. Watch 10 seconds. I still don't know what this is.
Watch like 30 minutes and I'm like, oh, there's an Egyptian god, so it's that one.
The color palette is very the same, and I think they kind of people think of Egypt as like one thing, which is a desert, but Egypt is actually a very varied environment where like you could have lush areas and other stuff going on too. It wasn't just the desert. There is also port cities, and there's so much more to that area that they could do.
It kind of sounds like a D&D game.
Yeah.
Overcomplicated.
Yeah. This is the city of dinosaurs. Ooh, and in D&D, this is the city of robots. You're like, one gimmick.
The city's entirely powered by farts.
Oh no.
I don't have that, but I was trying to come up with a really dumb gimmick.
So, interesting thing. Just going back to She-ra a little bit because I did some research. What do you think of Catra?
I love all the voice actors and actresses. Catra is
really
a great
nail their
character.
lines.
I do want to say I saw a YouTube video the other day of all of the voice actors getting on Zoom, and they all were trying to do the Catra hello
Hey,
Adora.
No, it's hey Adora.
Yeah, that whole thing.
The sass.
And they're also positive to each other, but they're
Yes.
like, "Oh, that's good. That's good."
One of the best things, and people keep talking about, and actually the thing this sounds like a clickbaity. When I first heard it, I thought it was a clickbaity article, but actually it was a strong point on Noelle Stevenson's part, where if a character was, it seemed like a certain identity, she wanted an actor to play that person. So like non-binary character playing a played by a non-binary actor. Mm-hmm. And she even talked about, and I read about this, where a lot of trans people identify with Beau as a very either effeminate man or not flamboyant. It's what's it, graceful?
I don't know what word you're going for.
Like feminine, but not towards gender. Feminine as in towards beautified. Like, what's it called?
Effeminate?
Is it effeminate?
Well, it's like
language. He was a very beautiful man, and a lot of trans people identified with that.
All right.
I from what I understand, a lot of I'm paraphrasing now. I need to be more careful of that. I listened to the last one, and I'm very, very hyperbolic, and I love being hyperbolic because I'm actually.
I didn't understand that last word there because you went.
I got to be very clear with my voice. A lot of trans people came out and said they really identified with Beau. Noelle Stevenson's confirmed that he was not trans, but like she's happy that people identify with her characters on that level. And if he was, she would have casted a trans actor. And she said she was very keen on people taking their identities and representing them in the characters of the show. So that's why I think it's so interesting that every actor feels like they're really getting into their character. But again, I can almost sense it when the script's not really working for them. You can almost tell in the tone of their voice where they feel like they have to say what they're saying. But definitely when it's like, Clamor, I killed the bed. is they're loving those lines. They really seem to enjoy it.
I do want to say two of my favorite parts of the show are, one, the reactions, and two, the voice acting, even the itty bitty parts. Like, you can see the editors and the directors could just take out these little mini parts, but they add in the small details of the little squeals, the little screams while Catra's being pushed off. She always does the little ee.
I love Beau's cracking voice. Like that's my favorite part of that voice. I'm just like, everybody needs to calm down. And
Yeah.
it's
And
it's an aspect of like just little touches.
Yeah, and every character has a very distinct voice. Like if I was to close my eyes and just listen, I could tell the differences in every single one of their voices.
Yes.
And it's in the affliction, it's in the tone. Like everyone has their own specifically chosen voice.
Even Catra has a.
Even Katra. And I listen to the voice actors, and like none of them sound like their characters in their normal voices. At least most of them.
That's true in most parts. I mean, like, some of those voice actors really have range. I looked it up, but apparently the voice actress for Catra only had like one other part in a different series, and I think that was Dragon Prince, maybe.
Oh. What does it say? She was.
They can't see this, but it was the next thing I wanted to touch on. It was the voice actress actually. It ties into another thing that happened with my week. I've been listening to a lot of Aly and Aj. Do you remember those gals?
No.
From Disney Channel?
Sorry. No.
They did Cowbells, I believe.
What?
They were two sisters who grew up in the city, but then like they had to help their dad's farm. Cowbells. And the dairy farm was going under.
I don't remember this.
They own Callum Dairy. The girls' mothers died prior to the events of the movie, and they inherit this thing, and they have to bring it back, and they're country singers, and they learn country living.
Was this before or after Hannah Montana?
I don't know. It's 2006, man. It was like one of those original Disney movies.
I'm looking at Aly and Aj's Sister Act, and I'm wondering if it's based off of the Whoopi Goldberg Sister Act.
Where's that?
Okay, go up 2007. Down.
Here?
Down.
Here?
Down.
Here.
There, Sister Act.
It is totally Aly and Aj's Sister Act. It's an MTV TV special. Oh, it's tied to My Sweet 16, the movie. Oh no. But anyway.
Birds of Prey.
We are starting
2002 Birds of Prey.
Do you know Birds of Prey?
Yeah, the DC.
She played the kid.
What kid?
Oh, Birds of Prey is basically like the story of like 20 years of like the kids of the DC superheroes, like fixing Gotham. Like there's Batman Beyond, which is like 50 years in the future, and Birds of Prey is like I think 30 or 20, and it's like the children of the previous heroes of Gotham are currently working on the streets.
Birds of Prey was like Huntress and
the kid of Huntress,
the three specific people.
Oracle, like Babs, Barbara.
I didn't know they were the kids. I always thought it was just the pretty much the main influential females of the Batman series came together.
No, it's way in the future.
I did not know that.
Yeah. I think the recent one, Birds of Prey, the Emancipation of Harley Quinn, kind of confused that line, but basically making it's an all-girls Gotham squad. And I'm like, no. Birds of Prey is very specifically the future of Gotham, like after all of this.
Hey, she did the voice of Stefani.
Oh my God. Yes. Her name, did we even say her name? Okay, so let's get back to it.
Sorry, AJ Michalka?
So Aly and Aj were a Disney pair, and they were kind of in the uprising of the Jonas Brothers. They were part of that whole, like, Disney realized, hey, kids really like music bands, okay? And so they started making a whole bunch of bands. Do you remember this? Like, besides Jonas Brothers? Mm-hmm. But only Jonas Brothers really kind of last, and it was all awful. They treated those kids horribly by forcing them to go on tour and all that stuff. It was... But anyway, the reason I looked this up is because I found out that the voice actress for Catra is AJ of Aly and Aj, Michalka. And
I don't think it's Michalka. I think it's Michalka.
Michalka?
I don't know. We're not going with last names.
Michalka. But anyway,
Hellcats.
And I found out she was Stefani.
Yeah.
She was in Steven Universe, and I was like, oh, so that's where she's been. She's been trying voice acting. And then I realized, oh no, they've actually had new albums come out this whole last like couple of years. And I looked into them, and they're really good. And they know what they're doing. They're really ethereal. Like, how do I describe this? Do you know the music in Rick and Morty when Rick builds the machine after Harmony? Mm-hmm. And they start playing that song? Chaos, I think, or
yeah, that really emotional song.
and or Evil Morty's theme.
Yeah.
Very ethereal. And their new sounds a lot like that. Their music videos are even based off of like Lynchian filmography and silent movies. Their songs are like Saint John, no, Arc of Joanne. What's her name? The French lady who freed the French from England. Joan of Arc, and was Joan of Arc on the dance floor, and that's their like party song. But then like every other song they have is like an ethereal, sad like I miss you or I'm lost in the stars without a map. And
I wanna listen to that now.
They're really good. And I was talking to Lex, and she was like, "Oh, hey, I didn't even know they're back." And I'm like, "Yeah, Jonas Brothers got a whole bombastic, we're back," and got a tour. But like apparently they've been building themselves from the ground up. And they've been really doing well. And I'm kind of happy to hear that like people break away from Disney to do their own thing and kind of re-identify themselves.
Yeah.
She was also in Super 8
as
Jen.
I don't know Super 8.
Lovely Bones. Oh man. So apparently she's been doing a lot of work, but I would never have a million years thought I'd hear about Aly and Aj again. Like Hilary Duff and Lindsay Lohan, I hear about those sometimes and I'm like, oh damn. It's been a while.
I kind of forgot entirely about Aly and Aj.
Yeah.
I feel bad now.
Well, it shouldn't. It's like they didn't do a lot of stuff for a while in music, and they were doing other things. Like, look at this. Discography, like she did a solo back in 2010 and 2013 and then didn't do anything until 2017, and I don't think there's a lot of marketing behind them, but again, like people who follow them really are dedicated to them, and that's a really good thing to see. Like I think a band is at its best when it's got no marketing. That's and
a terrible title though, just cowbells.
Yeah, but it's held on its own merits of music, and the people who love it, it's because of their taste. Yeah. Like everyone loves Evanescence because it's a meme at this point, but like, what if you unironically like Evanescence?
I feel like I've seen Super Sweet 16. Though.
No one can see this.
I know.
You're just looking at the list of things and you're like, I think I saw that.
Well, I think that was the one where it was like the girl's like, I wish this and that, and she keeps wishing.
With the owl coin?
No, it's the birthday cake. And it's like she had 16 wishes.
Oh, dang. I forgot about that one.
And it was like there was a curse that came with it because one of her wishes wasn't, because it's like...
No, yeah, it was butterfly effect. It was she made a wish that has causality change around her. Yeah. And every day it was her birthday and she had another chance, but she only had 16 chances.
Or something.
But... are we going to review Disney movies? Because we talked about that at some point.
I kind of want to, but we need to figure that out.
There's some really good ones out there that I really want to watch because they're like, oh my god.
Yeah. No, there's some that just
can of worms
grab you by the neck and lift you up and shake you around and say, "Watch me." I don't know if that was a good analogy for anything.
No, but it was more of like, it's like, hey, and there's like a hand under the couch. I've got something cool to show you. And it's like a really creepy hand. And you're like, I don't trust that hand, but the prospect of some entertainment is, tempting. And you're like, it's like, yes. And you realize it's a gloved hand and it's Mickey's hand. It's the dark side of live action. It's the abandoned by Disney creepypasta.
Come with me and you'll see a world of pure imagination.
Wait
just
a second.
Pulls him under.
Did AJ and Jonas like date? I say Jonas as if the group. No, I'm Joe Jonas. Oh, the potential breakup song was about Joe Jonas. Interesting. Oh. Did you ever hear potential breakup song?
No.
Down, my potential breakup song. Oh God, I hate my. I got so cracky. Oh my God, I'm still laughing. But the whole reason I was interested by AJ was again by Aly and Aj, and also because she sang the theme song of She-ra, and basically they had this one person who seems like was like multiple pinnacles of the show. It like she's part of the music team. She's one of the voice actresses, and it appears like she was almost like on like the writing show. Like, what would you think Catra would say at this point? She goes like, a lot of because like you said, they sound like they're having all fun on the Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
I actually saw a bit of that, but it was really cracked up. I really couldn't watch anymore because bad audio gets me.
Well, I like cringe. I can't through every cringe.
It's like Honeycast when they go, "Oh, Ashley."
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I love that. I love every time when someone starts freaking out because of one line.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Dream Life being voice actor writer.
What?
Dream Life.
Oh, what is my dream life?
No, I'm just saying Dream Life is being voice actor writer, being a part of the show.
That is. I mean, Rick and Morty is some of them it's improv, and I think they really enjoy getting to write their own stuff. But yeah, the dream life is being able to get into your character and know exactly what they're going to say in a situation or how they're going to say it.
Yeah. I would say
like the voice actors for Gumball and Darwin, I think are like top level. They know exactly how to get into those
even
characters.
though they get like a new set every couple of seasons.
They do get a new set of voice actors every season. And I think the last one were like the best because they were like the he was like roasting people like outside of the set, and he was like what's a sick burn Gumball would say, and he totally drops a sick burn, and you're like, oh, this kid is just literally acting like himself on this show. Or Chowder. I always loved the Chowder voice actors. I always loved Mung.
With no money.
Chowder. Why? Rada. Just
no money means no more animation.
And it turns into all the voice actors. What are we going to do now, Mung? We're going to have to work for it. And they start doing a car wash. We have enough money to finish the episode. That show was ahead of its time. It's a shame it kind of petered out instead of like...
I think a lot of people didn't see how smart it was at the time. They just saw it like a random kid show.
Well, I think a lot of people on Tumblr, so I've talked about Tumblr bait, right?
Yeah.
Tumblr has two parts. It's the one where it's like, oh, this is really like Game of Thrones, spoiler, GIF, and blog. There's that side of Tumblr. And then there's the other side of Tumblr, which is like sharing with the community. It's where it's like, hey, here's some, like handing out pamphlets is kind of what Tumblr is. It's like, here's a GIF from the show, and it looks really good. And that's where I learned about like haiku and Haikyuu, the volleyball anime, and
oh Lord,
and Sherlock was because of all the Tumblr posts people were making. I'm like, I should look into this show, but then you get the stuff where people are like standing it and totally like defending it to the point of nonsense.
Yeah,
which is not great Tumblr. Great Tumblr is,
fact,
not fact. It's the sharing of creation. In my opinion, it's not the die on this hill. It's the, hey, here's something I like, and they pass it off. And that's kind of like where I'm at with Twitter right now, where I only follow the people, and they're really good for filtering out all the noise and just retweeting the best stuff. Like, hey, everyone should watch All Saints Street. That's really fun. Saints Row is also good, and all that stuff. And I've really dug it lately. I'm starting to get lightheaded. Gotta take my jacket off. Why don't you talk for a bit?
Well, we kind of switched over from like one thing to the next.
Right. Are you gonna continue watching She-ra?
I am. I'm actually very excited for the season. We just watched, like right before this, we just watched the season finale.
Yeah, you said you wanted to finish the season. I'm like, you should just stop at episode 10.
Yeah. I mean, I understand why he said that now.
It's really good with cliffhangers, but honestly, it did the thing I dislike the most about any show. Our problems are solved because friendship.
Yeah, the power of friendship solved everything kind of out of nowhere.
I am on the fan where it's like, and now Dr. Robotnik fires his laser and blows up the moon, and then Sonic stops the pieces of the moon falling to Earth. That's a plot. But guess what? The moon is still blown up. I like that kind of thing, where the villain did something. He spent time, and then consequences happened, and it wasn't just instantly fixed because he had the Chaos Emeralds.
Mm-hmm.
But like in these kind of shows, you kind of need a happy ending, and that happy ending needs to be shown in a visual representation. That's not necessarily bad, but it is, again, the one weakness of it, of being a war story and kind of everything being fixed with the power of rainbows.
I think they needed one more episode to... So, spoilers.
Okay, yeah, so you're going to spoil the first season of She-ra? I think anyone who cared has already watched it.
Well, it's just like the finale of the first season. I feel like they need one episode to explain why the other princesses showed up.
Doesn't it feel kind of like it's out of nowhere?
Yeah, that's what I was upset about.
Didn't at the end of the last episode they say this was all a terrible idea?
Yes.
Shouldn't there have been a one last attempt at saying we can't give up?
That was like 2 episodes ago.
No, but shouldn't there have been an episode? Do you think that should have been one more chance, and then they like look hesitant but say no?
Yes.
Wouldn't that have been better and made more sense as a final rallying call for like the big thing? Yes. Because like why would the Ice Princess showed up? Because she's the one who hated them the most.
Yeah,
they were the ones who brought misfortune.
And we
to her
didn't
kingdom.
see her at all afterward, except her fortifying her defenses by sealing her kingdom in ice.
That's why I think that like maybe they were planning for longer seasons, but like they only were able to create the most important ones.
Yeah,
and kind of went that route. But like it has to wrap up that way. It has to.
Okay, I understand it had to wrap up that way. I just wish the build up was a bit better.
Yeah. I'll be fair with you. That is the only time I think that happens as a season finale for She-ra.
Yeah.
Where everything gets,
everything gets fixed. Pretty much.
Gets fixed that way. It's the only time it doesn't feel earned. It just kind of feels like, and now the rebel army shows up.
Yeah.
And they're all ununiformed and they're all ready to fight and they're all coordinated. And you're just like, I knew this was going to happen. I just didn't think I'd be so dead inside. Rise of Skywalker.
I want to say, though,
Okay,
I don't hate the season for having that ending.
No,
I love it overall.
It doesn't ruin it.
It definitely has more pros than cons.
It has more pros than cons. Yes.
Like I said, love the animation. The voice acting is peak. The jokes are great. The characters are wonderful. Like I said, the humor, the comedy is fantastic. It catches me off guard, and I love it.
I also love how Adora is basically the horse girl who wore combat boots to the beach.
Yeah. Episode cliffhangers are pretty good.
It's designed like Game of Thrones, where like the heroes have their finale, but then there's like a couple more seconds where either someone shows up or someone says or is standing in the shadows and they say something, and like Shadow Weaver, she is very good at that cliffhanger anticipation.
I also kind of really like this slow build of Hordak. Not Hordak. Redact. Where I kind of like that he is feared, but he does nothing.
Right?
He has not lifted a single finger and done anything to show the audience that he needs to be feared, but every character shows great fear towards him.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. I will say I have been a little bit spoiled here and there in the series.
You've been spoiled as far as the Hordak arc.
Yeah, but in overall, I don't know what happens.
Yeah.
Truly, I don't know where this... Like, I know where
you don't know
going,
what he does. He does some stuff.
Yeah, but I don't know what happens, what he does overall.
I really like... I know we're getting back into it, but like everyone's connected in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And...
also, the relationships are peak, and that's why I'm also watching the series.
Well, because season 1 is all about establishing the characters and where they're at what time. Season 2 is about how all of these people now all together interact with each other.
Mm-hmm.
The ensemble is really rough. The princesses show up for episode 1 of season 2.
Yeah.
And it shows the alliance going on. But then episode 2 onwards, nowhere to be seen.
That's upsetting.
Forget about it, because they don't have the time, I think, or know what to do yet. And so they're just kind of going back to the old formula of Glimmerbow and Adora, because that's the group they know, going on adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And then season 3, they finally get their footing and everyone starts going together. And then season 4 and 5 blow it out of the water, where everyone is doing something and playing into the bigger picture.
Mm.
I didn't want to talk too much about season 5 because I didn't know if you were on board. I don't know how much I could talk about it because it's only been a couple weeks.
I
But
kind of want to talk with you as I go along. I'm so sorry I haven't caught up like
no,
you in
I
3
don't.
days.
I don't expect you to. I'm insane. I don't. I have unreasonable standards. But it's one of those things. Like I said, it's a show that, and I want to say this only, it ends satisfying for me, and I did not realize how good it felt to have a series that ends satisfyingly. Like, you have series that end, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they leave a powerful message. This one didn't have any necessary like quick jabs or quick turns. Like, it was me all along. It was very like, you kind of knew what was going to happen, but when it did, it was catharsis. It wasn't disappointment like in Rise of Skywalker. Where you knew everything was going to happen, but none of it was cathartic. There was no anticipation or buildup because everyone's immortal until the climax of the film, right?
Right.
There's no actual danger, and the only danger is of them getting separated because this is Star Wars. The only time I ever actually started sweating it was C-3PO.
Oh, yeah.
Because he is someone who's been around for all 9 movies, and if he were going to die, this would be the movie to do it in.
Yeah.
Because he's technically a one-note comedic character, and that's what you do with comedic characters to really make the series feel more important, is you kill them off, and it is a thing. I also learned that what was the other thing? That I need to watch Clone Wars. That's another series I need to binge.
Yeah.
I need to finish that last season because everyone's talking about it right now.
Well, they were talking about a while ago, but
Well, they were talking about it a while ago, but everyone was talking about like, this fixes Star Wars 3, and I'm like, not possible. You can't fix that. But apparently the cowboy hat guy, I forget his name all the time, it just kind of adds more to the story, and I say, okay, fine, you're gonna build from it.
Wait, the pirate?
No, Cowboy Hat, the director guy.
Oh,
the writer. Every time he's on a Star Wars project, it really like kind of oozes character, and I kind of associate that with him now, because when he talks about Star Wars, he's not talking about the franchise, he's talking about the characters, and that really gets to me as a writer, where he's like, Star Wars, like someone says Star Wars is an expansive universe, and with him it starts Ahsoka's beginning the final steps of her journey of discovering who she is. And I'm like, you know where this character's going. You had a plan. Just like, and now that it's on Disney Plus, you kind of have free reign because you don't have to worry about TV ratings.
Yep.
Star Wars Clone Wars is a kids show. Meanwhile, compilation of everyone getting stabbed and decapitated. And I'm like, Korra always made me sad because the final season was filled with so much, it didn't feel like it belonged on Nick, and Nick knew that, and that's why they tried to kill the show with different time slots. The story of Korra is so sad. Like, they never really had a chance to play with that character. It was always like on the verge of being canceled, and
Yeah.
They face roadblocks at every chance. Makes me just a little bit moody.
Yeah.
I kind of want to see what Netflix will do next. I'm really curious what DreamWorks will do next, I should say. Now that they've finished She-ra, and the obvious next step after She-ra is He-Man.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be weird to do He-Man without paying tribute back to She-ra, because now She-ra is the foundation that He-Man would build off of.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if it will be the same team, and if they did the same style, but aged it up a little.
Like Samurai Jack.
Samurai Jack took the biggest leap from what was Samurai Jack Y7? Or was it PG?
I'm not sure. You were the one who watched in your childhood.
He could cut people in half because they were robots. That was how
and
he got
oil.
past that. And oil. And the very first pilot episode when he's fighting the scarabs and he cuts them and the oil spurts out of their arteries and spills onto him is like, wild.
The darkest age of Cartoon Network.
I would call it the Renaissance. Like, that was during the time of Powerpuff Girls and Dexter's Laboratory. That was like when episodes could have been when Dexter needs a new light bulb. That is an entire episode without dialogue, but it's all like classic Looney Tunes where it's music to action, and it's a very memorable episode in my head because it's about the circular nature of things, and the one time Dexter's vulnerable and cannot fix the problem, and he needs to ask his mom for the help, and instead of making it about how they don't only see the eye to eye, it shows how far she is willing to go for her son, which I think is a very powerful episode. You've seen that, right?
Is that the one where she fights another
Yes,
mom in a
they
cart?
go to the market and there's one light bulb left because they're on sale. She gets it for him, and they go back on a bicycle. Also, like all those cartoons during that time were made by like the same people, but the director was rotated. Like Lauren Faust and what's his name? I always forget. George
Takai?
No. The director for Primal. Or Tartakovsky. I used to be able to say it, but after a long period of time I forget how to say people's names.
Tartakovsky?
Yeah. Gendy Tartakovsky. I'm mispronouncing it, and I apologize. But he does stuff that has really good pacing. He was behind Symbiotic Titan, and
wow, that's an old one.
yeah, not super old, like 2010, but yeah, pretty old.
I mean, that's 10 years.
That never took off though, because I think he didn't know how to write a teen drama. He was trying to write a soldier story, trying to fit in, like basically they were soldiers who were coming into a normal world, and it showed how like a life on the battlefield can affect a person. With Lance, I believe was his name, and the robot learning how to be human, and then the girl who's trying to be optimistic, but the world often doesn't pay back that kindness except like in small ways. I enjoyed the idea. I honestly didn't keep up with it though. Not as much as I did Samurai Jack.
I don't think many people kept up with it.
But Samurai Jack is good. It's what I would call a strong story. One that kind of can withstand 20 years. And you can watch the Viking episode, or you can watch the Spartan episode and still feel something, just because the impact of the animation leaves such a lasting impression.
Yeah.
Oh boy, we've been talking for a bit.
How long?
Oh
wow.
Yeah. So, other things you've been doing this week.
Well,
how's Fire Emblem?
Fire Emblem's going well. I haven't played it too recently, but I've gotten past the first chapter into the time skip.
Yep. You're like in. Sorry, chapter. There's 4 parts, right?
You beat the game.
No, but there's seasons. There's 4 parts, but there's chapters within those parts. They'll say like part 1, chapter 3. You were around like chapter 16 last time I checked
15.
with you. 15. So you're kind of getting to the climax of the Golden Deer route.
Yeah.
Which is exciting because I'm interested to see what your thoughts are, because honestly I think Golden Deer is the only one with a really like big picture storyline.
Yeah.
Kind of lets you like it's like if you play the other routes, you because Golden Deer is very middle of the road where you kind of get to see both sides, and the other 2 are very their own sides. So
yeah,
I'll be interested to see what you think. Who are you working for? Like as far as like ranking. Like, are you getting everyone? Because you didn't get everyone. You only got.
I only picked up like 2 other students. I picked up like Lindhart, all the professors.
That's what I meant. Who are you running as your mains?
So far, pretty much, everyone in the class I really like. But so let's say
Linhart.
Lysynthia. No. Okay, stop.
Okay.
Stop. Lysynthia, Baelith, Claude, the Lycynthia's the wizard in the group, right?
Lysynthia is the girl with white hair. And
Yeah,
purple
okay.
eyes.
Dorothea,
dancer.
Hanneman,
Yeah, the professor.
The two warriors professors,
Shamir and Catherine.
Catherine, the nerdy green-haired boy, Ignatz.
He's not green haired.
Yeah, he has green hair.
No, he doesn't.
Ignatz.
No, he doesn't have green hair.
Yeah, he does.
No, he's blonde.
Green hair. I'm not wrong. That's green.
Okay, to be fair, in the Switch, it totally doesn't look green, but everyone draws him with green hair. That's not green hair.
Okay, it's very blonde green.
Okay, that's messed up, yo.
It's moldy green.
It's moldy.
It's
He's
moldy
just got a
gold.
moss on his hair. Yeah, okay, so I'm looking at him. On the Switch, the model looks yellow.
Yeah.
Like kind of like
Gross.
gross yellow.
Old yellow.
Like grease.
Like-
Like bacon fat. but
like if you left the yellow out in the sun and it got bleached.
But everyone draws him with green hair. That's so weird. I never noticed that because this is green hair, Byleth, but
that's like seaweed green.
seafoam.
My dancer who
Linhart has green hair.
I made Flane.
Who you made Flane? Yes.
I made Flane my dancer. So it's like my team is very but it's mainly wizards because I like wizards.
I think of Flan dancing, and all I can think of her is doing the chicken dance.
Well, it's like
Da 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 da. It's like Flan.
she said she wanted to be a dancer, and
No, I know she wants to be, but so does every kid.
I like talk to everyone. Some people were like, pick someone else, and I'm like, I'd rather not. And
I want Felix to be a dancer.
And I walked over to Flane, and she's like, I would love the chance to dance. And I'm like, I want to talk to the other students first. And she's like, oh, okay. And I was like, your
sweet
choice
summer child.
number one.
Who are you trying to S rank right now?
Currently,
Or do you even want to answer that?
Currently, I didn't really try to S rank anyone, but I pretty much have the blue-haired priestess,
Mary.
Marianne,
Marie.
Marianne, and the professor teacher.
Hanneman.
No, the other one, the female one,
Oh, Manuela. Mrs. Robinson.
and I think Dorothea are all A rank currently, and they're like, you can get S rank at the end of the war, and I'm like,
It's like,
would
would anyone like to S rank the 11th hour man? Oh,
so
man.
many chances. I want to S rank Hanneman, but Lindhart's the only other option.
What am I gonna do?
Hanneman's just like, you'll give me your finger? He's so creepy.
Yeah, he's
just
really
give
rude.
me a little bit of your skin.
They're trying to play it off as like he's not such a bad guy.
He's a scientist with
his
very low
science-
morals.
He is a scientist with like very little boundaries, but they keep playing it off as like he sneaks into people's room and takes like DNA samples off their bedpillows, and you're like, Jesus Louise, guy.
Yeah. But I mean, it's kind of interesting when I got Lindhart and like the secret side quests that popped up. I'm like, this is really random that Lindhart wants to go on a side quest with like the crazy girl who's in love with the main character's dad. And you're just like, ooh.
Oh, what's her name?
Leonie.
Leonie, yeah.
And it's like Lindhart and Leonie get a random side quest that have to do with, hey, I want a free thing. I can't afford weapons. And he's like, oh, I can go help you find a free weapon that has nothing to do with your class or one you can actually wield.
It's weird, yeah.
And I'm like, why does Leonie get a bow? She has no skills for bow.
Even though in the cutscene, every time you see her, she is wearing an archer's hand protector.
She's a lancer.
She's a lancer.
I just throw it out the window. Also, I like never use
Well,
Leonie.
eventually, when you go on
Also,
horseback,
I hate Lauren's character.
Yeah, everyone hates Lorenz. I found him kind of like, oh, he's literally just been conditioned to be a noble, and slowly through his at his social rankings. I thought he was going to start learning to be a better person, but no, he's just kind of conditioned forever, and you can't make him think otherwise. And it's actually really bad and toxic. But like, he's also like, of course I'll work my hardest because I am a noble. Like his idea of noble is like, I am better than everyone, and I have to work harder than everyone. But that's not the best way of thinking about it, and it kind of makes him come off as total trash.
Yep. Also, I made Ignatz my assassin. I thought it was hilarious. I should have gone mage because I was like, oh, Ignatz can learn ice magic. This will be so cool.
Ice magic.
You will do frosty freezy freeze. But I also noticed like pretty much he doesn't learn that many spells, but ice magic and wind magic.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hanneman's pretty good. He can attack good. Okay, what else does it say that I can talk about?
I don't know what else to talk about Fire Emblem. Yeah, that's kind of it. You've nailed it down. It's the character quirks and nothing about the story. There's nothing literally to talk about the story at this point.
Yeah.
You're right in the middle of the climax. So
let's see what's next. Promare. I don't know what that is.
So organic, you. Shall I talk about my week?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you already talked about like
and
everything.
It's sitting right there on the table at the top of my DVD piles of DVDs I've watched, so that I have a visual representation. I feel good that like, hey, you didn't waste your week. You watched all these movies.
You wasted your week.
Oh. So yeah, I watched Promare with my crew.
Who's this crew?
They're my friends from the current social distancing is still going on, so me and some people that I play D&D with, we all hopped online and we watched Promare because they tried to watch it back in December, and then the film got burnt, like the projector caught on fire.
What?
Yeah, the projector caught on fire when they were showing Promare, probably because it was too lit. And they got to like 15 minutes into the movie, and then it caught fire, and they had to cancel it, and they basically got a free pass for another movie. But because it was a limited time movie, they couldn't show it again another time slot because there was no other time slot available in the future.
That's upsetting.
So in January, they said, we're going to show Promare one more time around the country, and it's going to be in May. And so they said, buy your tickets now. And so everyone bought them. Come around April, they say, we're canceling all movie events. So they have been cursed, like trying to watch Promare, but not been able to. So this is finally a chance we were able to sit down and watch it. And I have to say, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Not for the reason a lot of other people are, but I enjoyed it as more of a spectacle. I think everyone enjoys it for the same reason. The Promare is a movie without a plot, I almost want to say. No, that's not correct. Plot is when you go from point A to point B. That is the plot. The story are the people and characters and the interactions and how they get from point A to B. What this movie lacks is... what's the word? How do I describe this? Is it
a linear story?
It is a linear story, but it's the kind of linear where Apollo 11 has to go to the moon. On the way to the moon, they meet an alien who says, we need your help on Mars. So they get onto the alien ship and go to Mars, only to find out Mars is a portal to another dimension. They hop into that dimensional portal, only to arrive on a planet where dogs and cats are fighting, and only humans can pilot these mechs because the actual planet is like 10,000 years in the future, and they pilot these mechs and they have to fight a giant cat cyborg who has grown out of control and is multiplying cat alien babies, and the dogs and cats have to join up to stop this bioweapon. And it's just one thing after another. That's Promare. It starts as a firefighters have to fight pyrokinetics. That is how it starts. And then it just keeps going and going and going and going. And none of it matters. None of it matters.
Do you know what Promare reminds me of?
What?
A non-linear story.
But it is linear because they're going from one place to another.
Stop. No. Okay. So a story with not a real plot. Characters that really define the story. So it's more about them.
Yes.
It's a bunch of randomness. And there was another third thing, but you kept going and I forgot. I was like, this reminds me so hardcore about a movie we also watched. It reminds me of Cats.
Is this nothing like? Well, Cats was all spectacle, and this is kind of all
that was
spectacle.
it. You called it a spectacle,
Yeah.
and Cats is a
Cats is a
spectacle
spectacle.
musical.
All right.
I just like after you kept going, I was like looking out the window, and then I slowly turned to you and was like, Cat.
Well, yeah, yeah. Both movies made me scream at the screen, but as with Cats, I was like, so cats aren't like dogs, huh? Is that right, Judy Gent? What's her name?
Judi Dench.
Judy Dentures?
Oh Lord! Don't. How dare you offend
No,
that woman?
she is a fine lady and she's a great actress, but like, she was fed bad lines.
No.
But in Promare, it's like, it's very obvious what they're trying to do. Promare is made by Studio Trigger, which is like the quintessential kind of like stylized anime right now. Like if you look at an animation and it's got like because right now anime is very smooth and round, and that's kind of the commercial standard right now. Trigger is very much the angle where characters have sharp jaw lines and chins, and all the robots have super shoulder pads that jet out, and everything's a drill or a sword, and everyone's angular. That is very much the Trigger style. Mm-hmm. Except for Little Witch Academia, they were kind of doing a mix of soft and sharp at the same time.
Oh, I like that one.
Mm-hmm. Well, the OVA or the TV series?
The movies.
There you go, the OVAs. Which is really where they shine. That because
I don't really watch the TV series. I think I should, but I haven't.
It's all right. It's got a lot of cute stuff, but mainly Trigger kind of really made a name for itself after Gurren Lagann. Do you remember that one?
Guru Lagann.
My drill will pierce the heavens.
Yeah, I know that one.
Okay, so this is kind of the quintessential like. This is what Trigger is, and they made a name for themselves in the second half of well, I mean, like Gainax and Trigger are the quintessential like mecha. I keep saying that. Sunrise also does Gundam. These are basically like the guys who are like, you want high octane action, you go to Studio Trigger. You want stuff that's so bizarre and over the top and epic and like on a whole other scale, you go to Trigger. And they do that, but oftentimes they kind of don't make sense in the scale of the story. For example, they just came out with BNA. And for like no reason, they add this like superpower to an already interesting story about animal rights, like Zootopia was. Mm-hmm. And they added this whole superpower, which wasn't necessary. In Kill la Kill, the superpower only acts as a mode of supremacy over the other students. They use the power to keep other students in line, and is telling a story of fascism, right? You are worthless because on the charts, you're bad, right? And it's all about Rukia Matoi challenging that idea of fascism by saying, like, my friends aren't useless. These people aren't pigs, right? They aren't garbage. They're not nothing. Mm. And it's about her challenging the system that basically, like, the school says if you're worth something based off your grades. In Kill la Kill, you're rewarded clothing that makes you more powerful and better than everyone else, and kind of making and perpetuating the idea that people who are worthy get stuff and those who don't wallow in nothing, in poverty. And that is a very interesting story, but then the power becomes the main story, and suddenly all the problems everyone was having in the city didn't matter. There was like a whole gang war in the city, and that just becomes like almost a nothing plot, not even a B or C plot. And that's sad to see. Gurren Lagann is always about going up. So when the stories keeps going up with its powers, it makes sense because it's about rising to the next level. It's about challenging yourself and breaking past barriers. So it makes sense and all ties together. But Trigger is always trying to be Gurren Lagann, and that's problematic because the story gets in the way. All that to say, Promare literally comes out and says, the story doesn't matter. Just listen to me. Here is how it works. And the main character sleeps through the entire thing and says, I don't really think any of that's important. We just kind of have to fight the bad guy, right? And that is literally like... literally just what the movie is like. We're giving you the lore to explain it. But honestly, it's just so we can have giant mechs. And I love that kind of aspect where it's like, why are there werewolves in the world, right? and they can go through the whole explanation of the Greeks and the Zeus and the mythos of werewolves. But that none of it doesn't matter if it's an action series. Just say there are werewolves and this is what they can do. Are they weak to silver? Yes. Okay, now we have a conflict. Dog soldiers. Dog soldiers is just army men stuck in a house in the woods being attacked by werewolves. That's the whole movie. And it's a good movie because why are the soldiers there? Doesn't matter. Why are the werewolves there? Doesn't matter. It's just a fun conflict.
Are you done with your rant yet?
No. Yes.
Okay. I was wondering when it was going and when it would end.
Sorry. I got sidetracked because I am actually getting really hot and my head's getting light, but we take some breaths. Promare is good. The music is top notch. I love the soundtrack. That was the first thing I heard about Promare was, hey, listen to this soundtrack. It is really rad because it's dun 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 dun, like that up poppy and cool lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
And all the fights are like Sakuga. Do you remember when I told you about Sakuga? Sakuga, animation that is basically implanted into an anime series and like has more frames and is done by a different guy or gal, and it's basically hyper animation. It's Saitama's fights. There's like animation of Saitama walking around, but then there's the fight scenes which are completely different from the rest of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Promare every 5 minutes has a 10-minute Sakuga. Just top level fight or chasing animation. Like every 10 minutes.
Okay.
It's insane. This is a 2-hour movie.
Uh-huh.
Get hyped!
Woo!
Thank you.
Sorry.
I got really... It's just a really exciting series, and it's kind of an accumulation of all Trigger has done. There's even a magical girl transformation from Little Witch Academia for a robot. You're looking at me like I'm weird. No, this is literally...
No, I was imagining in my head a robot, not someone turns into a robot with a magical girl transformation. A robot gets a magical girl transfer. What?
That's what I mean. The robot gets a magical girl transformation.
Into a magical girl.
Into another magical robot.
What?
Yes! The movie does this thing where at an hour and 20 minutes they said, and now Trigger dumps everything they had. You thought it was good for the first hour and 20 minutes, which was action and this is Promare, but then all of a sudden Promare gets injected with Gurren Lagann, and then it gets injected with a little bit of Little Witch Academia heroin, and then you get a little drop of Ritalin from Kill la Kill.
Ritalin.
where things start slicing and they get the big kanji behind them, like in Kill la Kill. People would say their attacks and then it would zoom out to the other person's perspective and the kanji is actually behind them like a poster board, and it falls over as they get kicked into the kanji. And it's like this crazy No More Hero idea where the meta is affecting the real world.
Mm-hmm.
I was Deadpool also did it in Marvel vs. Capcom. He would say something, grab his dialogue box, and then smack someone with it. That was one of his supers. Where you go blam, 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 and then all these boxes would show up around him, and then he would toss them, and they would hit the person.
So I've understood about 25% of what he's been saying.
But I'm telling you, it's wild. There's the...
Should I watch it?
I think you would enjoy it with friends. I don't think you should watch it on your own. You should have anime people next to you.
Could I totally have one of those?
Because there would be questions in it that not a normal person can answer. Because you would say so why? and there would be no answer because in the context of the movie it makes no sense. But in the context of Trigger, it does.
Okay.
I've had my fun.
I had my scream.
Excuse me.
Bless ya.
You're blessed.
You are blessed, child.
Yeah, but that was fun. They finally got to watch that movie. And I was happy to also experience it because it was always just like, oh, Premiere, that's the thing other people like. But then I'm always someone who's like, that's not for me, until like someone says, hey, we should do this. And then I'm like, yeah, why not?
Why not?
Yeah. I think that's pretty much it for my week, unless you want to talk about Midnight Gospel. I think I already talked about it, though.
We brought it up a little bit, but it's pretty much... I only watched the first episode. It's pretty much acid trip podcast turned into a TV show, is how I would explain it.
Yeah.
Not acid trip, just getting high.
It's very acid trippy, where...
I would say the animation is acid trippy, but the talks are like, they're just like... Ate an edible or just...
Eat an edible. You have never eaten
okay,
an edible.
I don't know drugs.
You don't know drugs.
I'm not that owl who's just like drugs.
Woo!
Hey.
How many licks does it take to get to Nirvana? 1? And he starts purring. Oh no. Drugs are bad. No, I make fun of it, but like... The show is very much about releasing the boundaries of your minds, and the most common substance for getting past that is drugs.
I don't even know why the first word that came into my head, because I'm always trying to finish your sentences, was releasing my endorphins.
Maybe. But no, the show is weird. I have a hard time really getting into it. I don't know if that's because I'm underqualified or it's like I'm watching it, right? I can tell there's something there, but it's almost like this is a personal project that I'm witnessing rather than something that's helping with my own understanding of the world. Like maybe I'm missing context, right? Maybe I need to watch this podcast to really understand what they're talking about. But often the visuals they're talking about sometimes sync up really well with what they're talking about. For example, he's talking with this one lady. I forget her name, but she had the coolest like way of talking, and she's talking about suffering and like finding other people who suffer and making sure everyone's okay, right?
Right.
And the character she's playing in the show is someone with a rose that if it scratches you, it takes all of your hurt and stores it in the flower, and the flower gains power from that pain. And so the visuals of her getting hurt in these different situations, or other people get hurt and she uses the rose to heal them, is this idea of you get hurt just a little bit more, but in doing so, you release all of your pain, was a very cool visual as far as the storytelling went, of visual matching conversation. And it might be because I'm inexperienced in the ways of philosophy or spirituality that I can't quite grasp sometimes what they're saying, but I think they're also just doing free talking. They're freestyling it, right?
Yeah.
They don't come in with a agenda or a thing. There's this one where they're talking about reincarnation, and the thing is Clancy gets in a prison that's all about rebirthing, where if you die in this prison, you just come back.
I think the main thing is that they come in with a mutual topic that both of them know greatly about.
I think
the speakers, I mean.
The character Clancy is meeting these people for the first time, but I believe the actor actually talked with them before and invited them onto the show, and they might be talking about what they talked before, right?
Yeah, like it sounds like they have two very specific perspectives of like they know a lot about the subject they're talking about.
Well,
but it's like there's no judgment. They're just free flowing these conversations.
But in doing so, I don't think that you really get to explore like for example, the guy when he's talking about rebirth and Hinduism and reincarnation, he's using a lot of terms that don't get described, and that's something you're going to have to go in your own time to investigate. The show isn't about holding your hand or saying, "Hey, you get it, right?" And it's also not like it's treating you stupid, right? It's not telling you we know more than you. It's about sharing information.
Something.
It is putting I would almost say it's like putting the Parmesan on your curiosity.
I don't like that.
You don't like the like you're like you have your pasta, which is your knowledge, and you're like watching a show that's a cartoon, but all of a sudden they have this seasoning that goes on top and it makes it a little bit better, and you're like, I wonder what that seasoning is, and suddenly you're asking about the spices that went into it. Maybe I think that's the best way to say it. You're watching the show, but you're not gaining any spiritual knowledge, but you're getting perhaps like whenever I listen to a podcast like the one we're doing right now, they'll talk about a movie and I will instantly search for that movie and save it for later because they mentioned it. I want the context of what they're talking about.
I do want to say I love how philosophical you're being about a philosophical show.
But that's the thing. I wouldn't call this philosophy.
Well, it's not. Okay, well, it's in the sense of you have to explain the philosophy of a philosophy.
Yeah. If I were Socrates, I'd be giving you the stink eye. The philosophy of philosophy, you say.
Isn't that just philosophy?
Yeah, you'd be like,
Yeah, no, not a lot of people like me.
But it is a show about people hurting or suffering, and about how they found ways to cope with that. And that is a very, rather than being like 13 Reasons Why on about this is what suicide's like and how dramatic it can be and all the things that kind of bring us to the lowest point of our lives, right?
Yeah.
And but that's all dramatization. No one necessarily goes through that. Sometimes you're sad for no reason, right?
Yeah.
You get depressed because you're not happy with where you are, and this show is saying you're right where you need to be because you are standing here interacting with someone or with yourself in a way that is helping you grow. You're always growing regardless. And he said one of the most interesting things about the rebirth one, he says, because we live in an existence of time, we will always be suffering because that's growth. Or not necessarily. He said that he described it as like everyone being connected, but being in time, we can't really see how we're all connected at once because we're only ever moving forward. We can't see behind us or to the side of us across our plane of existence. We can't witness. I can see you, but I'm not witnessing you only because the time that is progressing forward keeps me from understanding the person who you were, are, and are going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about moving above that and kind of gaining that understanding of everything. Like, you don't matter on a nihilistic level. You don't matter because you make up one of a whole. It's not that you're nothing. It's that you're part of something so much bigger. And by letting go of that individuality, you suddenly are awakened to the cosmos in a way.
Yeah.
Again, that is way outside my depth. I don't know if I could practice that kind of spirituality to that kind of level, but there is something very calming when I'm watching this, and they balance it out with like hyper violence in the animation. And it's almost like they're reflecting that reality is really grim and dark, but you don't have to be stuck thinking that way. You could be thinking about something else while terrible things are going on in the world.
Yeah.
And that's the feeling I'm getting about Midnight Gospel. Is I'm only at episode 7. I'm going to finish it this weekend, but I'm at this point where I don't know how I could recommend it, or if I'm allowed to judge it in any way. It is something I don't spend my time thinking about. Therefore, I don't think I have a right to judge it.
Even when something is bad, even when something is really good, I would usually recommend it. Even if it's terrible, like me, I tell people to go watch Cats because I think it's always good to experience something that is bad or something you don't like.
Right, but that's the thing. You know what you're getting into when you're describing Cats. It's so bad, it's entertaining. But for example, I can't suggest BoJack Horseman to certain people.
Because it's offensive?
Because it's offensive in some ways, and a lot of people would not like you can't recommend South Park to certain people, right?
Well, I mean,
you also can't recommend. I mean, you could, but there's just a level of like.
I'd put it differently.
I don't know.
I'd put it differently in the sense of it's not that you can't recommend it. It's that you probably know that person enough of they probably wouldn't like it, but you should recommend a show, but give a warning. Like,
well, but I don't know.
This show makes fun of everything. It will hurt your feelings if you are sensitive to that kind of humor, like making fun of every ethnicity, race, sexuality, everything. It hits it hard, but it hits everything.
That's something I would give
Like
to
South
Breaking
Park.
Bad or oh, okay. Sorry.
Sorry, I had a cough.
It's I understand what you're saying, but it's so difficult because if I were to say what's Midnight Gospel about, and I would want to say, well, it's about people talking about like spirituality and philosophy and how they cope with the real world. But there's also madness and mayhem going on in the animation where a guy's butthole literally becomes a demon with teeth.
But I mean, the animation kind of coincides with what they're talking about.
But then it goes completely off the rails and has nothing to do with what they're talking about.
Really?
Yeah, there's just a fly with a butt plug that gets pulled out and poop starts shooting out. Like, that's what I'm talking about, right?
Oh, wow. I didn't see that episode.
No, like it gets really weird, and I'm almost like it's almost like antisocial behavior. And I'm like, the philosophy is really deep, but then you get the butt plug fly, which made me chuckle. I was like, because my brain had turned off at that point. It was really late at night, and it just made me chuckle. But that's because I laugh at really stupid, dumb things.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to say, hey, here's a show that's really interesting, but butt plug fly. Like I would say the same thing about South Park. South Park often deals with really big issues and often shows the problem isn't the actual problem, it's the adults trying to solve it. And then they make political commentary and all that stuff and rabble and all that.
Yeah.
And the parents don't care about the kids at all, and it's about the and I always thought that commentary was funny. Like, but it's really hard to also say that and also have the episode where Butters is the dog and they have the weapons. Actually, that whole episode is actually the best example of why I love South Park and why I can't recommend it to people.
I feel like some shows, so I understand like how I recommend shows but give them a warning. There are just some shows that are better if other people discover them on their own.
You're right.
But
I think this is
it's really, but we're also not like force telling people you should do it this way or what. Do whatever you want.
Do whatever you want.
Fine.
But I think you're right in that sense. I would not recommend someone to watch Midnight Gospel just because it's out. But if you come across it and you think to yourself, I'm interested in that, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, give it at least like a 5-minute glance.
You should only, this is like She-ra, you should only watch this when you're in the mood for kind of exploring that as ideas, I think.
Yeah. Like right now, I feel like She-ra is something I kind of need right now. Just
Yeah.
because I need some really good. So, not all the subjects in it may be positive, but it's an enthralling show that makes me feel good by the end of every episode. Because
I feel like that's a good series. That's the keystone of a good series.
Yeah.
Is not the I actually watched a talk on Game of Thrones, and they talked about how and it's the reason I dislike Game of Thrones, the TV series, is because every episode is designed to be a formulaic ABC plot with a shock every 3 episodes. 2 to 3 episodes, there will be a event that happens not because the story dictates it by any formula, but because they think the audience might be getting bored and they want to shock them and keep them awake, as opposed to Alfred Hitchcock, which is the idea of suspense.
Yeah.
Which was perfect with the Dragonfire.
Yeah.
The whole reveal the Dragonfire and that suspense of knowing it's there was much more well handled than like any surprise death in Game of Thrones. And I don't think that's a good series. I don't think that's a good way to keep a audience's attention. I think if you see it coming but it's still cathartic, right?
Yeah.
It is a better payoff for the audience, and ultimately I think it's more healthy as far as a story can be told.
I want to bring up another example of another show that is emotionally draining.
Yeah.
For me, I can't handle, so there are some shows that are emotionally draining and it actually works well. Once Upon a Time, the show that pretty much takes all fairy tales and puts them in real life.
Fables?
No, Once Upon a Time.
Oh, Once Upon a Time. Gotcha.
I could only watch one episode a day because it was so emotionally draining because they had to have such a high risk emotional pulling episode every day, every time. Like someone would die like every other week.
But
And it would make me cry.
Yeah.
And then because it was a character I cared about, or it was a character that did not deserve that. And then I'd be like, okay, episode over. I can't watch this again. And then I stopped after a week of doing that because I was like, this is too emotionally draining. My heart can't take it. I don't know if that's because I'm overly sensitive, but I just couldn't do it.
no,
It was tiring.
The
It was
formula is built around that's a very CW ABC approach to things.
I thought it was Stars.
Stars.
That's a...
Once Upon a Time was, I believe, on ABC because they owned the Disney stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it's that very much. Was it always a character that mattered? Was it a main character, or was it a character that you just liked?
It was like a character that show up for like
Yago shows up and they say, "Hey, I'm Jafar's bird. Quick, get out of here. He's planning something." And then they murdered Yago.
In the first like 4 episodes, they murdered Gus Gus.
Well, you don't have to say who, but I was giving an example. It's like, does Gus Gus matter?
Well, he's just a human.
Or is he just a fan favorite?
Well, it was a mixture of the original Gus Gus, like, that was one of my favorite characters.
The mouse from Cinderella.
Yes.
Okay.
And then he just gets murdered for no reason other than framing someone.
Okay.
And there's actually a relationship building somewhere, and then I cried.
But
that's one of my best examples.
I watched Once Upon a Time for like 4 seasons.
Yeah, I know.
I watched that because it's like a Spanish soap opera, and it was literally what my friends did. We all did on like Friday night was come over and watch a show on ABC and have pizza, and that was like our weekly thing. Although I didn't like this show because at a certain point I could literally tell you what was going to happen because it works. I'm not going to say it was bad writing because it works and it does keep you on the edge of your seat. But at a certain point, they just said death doesn't matter because if they're a person important in the plot, they just come back.
Yeah. Well,
or they forgot their memories, or they got revived and they're evil now. And the same thing happened in Supernatural.
I don't know. I just stopped liking the show and then I just didn't watch it. For me, I just called it emotionally draining.
It is a emotional draining, but some people get excited by that more than drained. A lot of people that I watched it with were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. And they started like spitting fan theories. But honestly, you found it draining because the characters you liked were dying. They only saw the main characters as the ones they liked.
But it's also killing a character only just to kill them is not a good reason to kill them.
I don't even think they liked the main characters. I think it was more of a game to them. They treated the show of like a game of Thrones. No, I'm kidding. They treated it like a of like pieces on a map, like Clue, and trying to figure out what was going to happen. You are inherently invested in characters, as I am inherently invested in characters, which is why I don't like shows that don't have payoffs.
Yeah.
And only expect you to stick around for the twist, because people for some reason associate twists with good writing. And a lot of people are coming around and realizing that's not the case. Twists are good because they're an inversion of expectation. But when that person becomes known for subverting expectation, it becomes common, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
If a person is known for their comedic style of falling down, Charlie Chaplin, right?
Yeah.
And he falls down because it's funny, you start to lose its meaning. That's why when Charlie Chaplin started doing more and more pictures, his jokes became more elaborate. He fell down a shaft into gears, which turned him all around, which was funnier because it was his style, but stepped up.
Yeah.
So if they were to do Once Upon a Time again, you would probably have the side characters not die, but disappear for a while so that they could come back in like the second act or something. And then they could die.
You need to build them up more.
You need to build them up.
Yeah.
Because if you show them in episode 2 and they die in episode 4, they were written to die. That is the unfortunate aspect. They were always going to die, and you realize that going back. There isn't this sense of inevitability. You realize it was always part of the step 1, introduce. Step 2, like them. Step 3, kill them.
I'm gonna pull us back into a topic we were talking about.
Sorry, I'm going off on it.
This is also another spoiler. Entrapped as death. Sorry.
Okay, hold on. You didn't say what the spoiler was for.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
B, holy cow, is that a statement? C, that's a lie. Also, you didn't lead in. You should have said,
Okay, one-
can I
okay.
tell you about something that
Okay.
happened in She-ra, and it's a spoiler for the end of season 1.
Okay.
You have
Season-
just wounded. You have provided trauma for anyone who might be listening and got really excited for She-ra, and all of a sudden you're just like, she dead.
Okay.
Shame on you.
Sorry. Edit it. Edit it how you want. Just like go dun dun. So
not
I have
editing any
something
of
to tell you. Dun dun.
So go on for
Sorry.
Entrapta's death.
Season 1. Entrapta's, in quotes, death. It was well built up ish. To me, I still thought
they
it was
built up
kind
the
of
whole
cheesy.
episode. She kept running off on her own.
Yes.
And then finally, as the
But
episode reaches its climax, and the robot she's befriended.
But stop.
Okay.
They built her up as a likable character that everyone cared about. I loved her right off the bat.
Yes.
Tiny Foods. I love her.
It's really interesting because she's actually written to be autistic.
I love that.
And they actually had one of their autistic writers go in and like write for her, and like really got excited, and it was really fun to see like that kind of aspect, because a lot of media has been trying to cover autism lately, and I think it's great that they're expanding beyond the weird kid who doesn't talk.
Yeah.
Billy from Power Rangers.
If anything, she talks
Sesame
too much.
Street. It's great.
And I love it. Okay, I'm just saying that was a well built up death, though it looked kind of cheesy when it happened.
Normally when you know someone's dying because you look down at them and they fall slowly into the pit or to the fire.
Yeah.
Or there's this moment where they the ship is shaking and they close their eyes and the ship explodes. And you're like, okay, they're dead. But in Entrapta, it was like, no, Entrapta. And then she was like, huh? Doors closed. Boom. And it explodes. And you're like, well, that was like a nanosecond. She survives.
Yeah, like
She survives. But it's like, then the question becomes, how did she survive? Because that was pretty imminent. It was literally doors closed, explosion. She should have been dead, but apparently she says, no, I got into the ducts. And I'm like, you'd have to take them off.
You'd have
You'd
to
have to crawl it in.
You'd have to unplug your robot.
You have to unplug your robot.
Unless she went inside her robot first.
See, that would have been a very interesting thing, that if actually Emily was in the air ducts and rolling around with Entrapta inside.
Yeah.
That would have been a really funny scene where it's like, why is there a robot in the air ducts? And she comes out like a little babushka egg, like with the Russian doll. It's like, hello.
Yeah.
And that would have been fantastic. But they killed her off because they needed it for
Story reasons.
beginning of Act 3, end of Act 2 climax.
Yeah.
That was exactly why they had to kill her, because they needed to raise the stakes for the beginning of Act 3, and that is the formula I'm talking about that I disliked. But when they killed her off, they immediately brought her back, which isn't the problem you're having. The problem you're having is that...
Well, okay, when they built that, what I was saying was that was a good build-up of a character death.
Oh, gotcha, because we got to know her.
That was my best example I could think of at the moment for a good character.
And it made sense because, like we said, she runs off every second she gets. So the moment she runs off to catch her robot who got stuck and she gets trapped in the fire pit, that made sense. It didn't feel... Okay, so it was like, of course they need to, but it also didn't feel senseless. It didn't feel like all of a sudden someone couldn't run, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I tripped and fell, and they like get knocked over all the time, but they stand right back up. So why is this instance where they fell and tripped, they can't get back up?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Like it's yeah.
Yeah.
But a character's death should be more than just a plot point.
Yeah.
Because at that point,
Well, it was a mixture of things. Entrapta's death was a plot point. It was a struggle for Adora. It was a thing that...
Oh, no, yeah, they all struggle with her death because they don't realize she's still alive.
Well, one, they all do struggle with her death, but it's that also everyone kind of made fun of her a little bit. Like, all the other characters kind of joked that she's the nerdy, geeky princess.
She was kind of a nuisance to them.
But... they still liked her.
They liked her, but they didn't understand her. They kind of said, like, would you just stop and like chill?
Yeah.
And no one really understood her, and that's why when she sets up a base in the Horde, she feels more welcome because they don't treat her like odd one out.
Yeah.
But what was it we were just talking about? There's what is it? Okay. You're talking about character deaths, and I can't talk to you about them because there are certain ones that are major plot points in games I played. But there is one example I have, right?
Right.
where someone dies in a Final Fantasy game, and their death leaves such an impact on you that not only do they get memorialized in the city, you also are given a portrait of them, and you are able to hang it in your own home, and that's your choice. But throughout their act of death, every time you go back to that city, either the first thing you see is that memorial, or you meet someone who was directly involved with them, and they said, I started making these things I make every year, and I made an extra batch for them, but then I remembered, so I left them at the memorial. And so every single time, and this person did have an impact on you as the player. So every time that character is mentioned, I as a player actually feel bad, because they were kind of my like image of this city.
I think I know who you're talking about, because that game was spoiled for me a little.
Final Fantasy 14?
Yeah. Well,
I'm surprised.
Well, it's like, is it the most common?
No, okay, well, we're not going to get into it, but we'll talk about it off air. But that was a really good death. But then there's other ones where it's like the death at the end of season 1 of Game of Thrones, where it becomes the catalyst, but no longer the purpose for fighting. After season 3, everyone just kind of stops talking about why they started the war, and more of, this has been a long time coming. And you're like, guys, there is a name you should be like cheering to. There was a guy who was, trying to find the truth, did find the truth, and was kind of trying to fight against, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was a pinnacle character to these events, but they stopped being important because they're no longer alive. And that's one of those things in my mind where, like, in She-ra, you can't have death, but there is a character who did die.
Yeah.
And they are constantly mentioned between Glimmer and her mom.
Yeah.
And their death is actually pinnacle to their relationship. That is how you treat death in a story. It is once you accept it, you can move past it. But if it is a pinnacle point of a character's aspect, it needs to be addressed, and to a point then either forgiven or accepted, and then you can move on. But every time it's introduced in most stories, it's just forgotten.
Yeah.
All this to say is, Gus Gus should have had a bigger role in Once Upon a Time.
Yeah, that's where we're gonna end.
Okay, we have talked too much. Yes.
We have enough content to last at least.
Live long and prosper, Gus Gus.
He was the biggest mouse with the feastiest feast for cheese.
He was a thick boy.
With a green hat and a yellow shirt.
Thick rat. Mouse.
We're the rats. Rats. We're the rats.